Good evening. I'd like to call to order the East Long Meadow School Committee meeting. It's February 5th, 2018, and it is 7 p.m. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. I ask if anyone is doing so to please let me know. Okay, seeing that there's none, we're going to move on. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can all please stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have roll call, starting on my left with Allie.
Allison Stevens, student rep.
Rich Fichero.
Gregory Thompson.
Deirdre Mayu.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Elizabeth Marcy Boucher.
Valerie Amir, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Kathy Saletti with one second.
It's that.
Okay. So we just need to move on to the approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward tonight 4-0. Okay, at this point, we have committee and subcommittee communications. So Allie, if you want to start with that, please.
Okay. Right now at the high school, in honor of Black History Month, Mr. Polk has organized students to speak every morning on the announcements about important events and moments in Black history. So that's a nice thing that is happening. And also next week for Valentine's Day, a couple of fundraisers are being held. Like the chorus is doing their singing telegrams. They usually do them around Christmas time, but they decided to do them now instead. So that's also
They go and
exciting.
embarrass other people around the building all day
It's all
long.
in good fun.
I'm sure. I don't mean embarrass, I mean flatter. I'd say.
Yeah, it's nice. They're doing
Very cool.
different types of songs. So
Oh, neat.
it'll be interesting.
Oh, fun.
I had the pleasure with Bill and Gordon of judging the anti-bullying campaign at Mountain View. Very impressive. The collaborative committee has chosen the Grinspoon winners. I think we're going through the process now of verifying that. My esteemed colleague to my right and I are negotiating with Unit A. And my record's intact. The boys basketball team lost when I went, and the hockey team got blown up when I went. I'm really not doing
At
well.
least you're consistent.
Yes, I am consistent, if nothing else. Thank you.
All right.
I have
Do
nothing
you have
this evening,
anything?
no, thank you.
Okay. A couple of things that I just want to mention is I had the opportunity to go over to the Birchland Park Makerspace while there was a fourth grade class there from Mapleshade that were taking part in that STARS grant activity with Jay Mankita. And they were setting up, it was really neat, doing sort of like the Rube Goldberg type things where it was dominoes, setting them up to knock a ball over into like a little cup, which would then trigger some little pulley to drop a little pin. So it was really, really fun watching the kids do this.
I hope you didn't try to help anybody.
No, I didn't try helping anyone, I stayed clear, I just watched. And then I guess they had a night where it culminated and they had a big family.
They had a Makerspace challenge, community challenge, and so both students and parents were invited. And I think they had close to 140 students there. Similar, they were creating devices, Rube Goldberg devices, to many different steps to make something happen at the end. But pretty incredible to see the creativity and how each group was coming to a plan of how they were going to make something happen. And
Right.
the plans were different as you went to the different groups.
Yep. And the other thing I do want to just mention, which I just thought of now, we had a health advisory meeting the other morning, and Joanne Welch was there, and she spoke about a partnership with the elementary school with the OT. Am I getting, is it OT or PT?
It's,
With the
OT,
OT, the
yeah.
occupational therapy program over at BayPath, which is going to then have their graduate students come and work with some of our, as I think just the kindergarten students at this point right now. They'll still be overseen, so they'll get some of their internship hours
Right.
while they're helping out the students, but still being watched by our, supervisors within our school. So I think that's a great partnership that we have, and Joanne was really helpful in
She was
getting that
instrumental in,
organized.
Nice.
working that out. So it's a new partnership, and
Right.
it actually benefits both the OT graduate students as well as our students in the classroom, because they're bringing activities that help students build skills that they need as they continue to move through the grades.
Yeah. And I think that's, no, that was pretty much a lot of our health advisory, nothing else, more of just, going forward, spoke about the school lunches and things like that. I think in the high school, they're having Name the Cafeteria.
Yes.
Is something that they're having, just to sort of a new way to revitalize and promote the school lunch at the high school level. Did you come up with any good names?
I don't, everybody had a different one.
Yeah.
Lots of them were named after teachers, especially ones that have retired recently.
So I think right now
Mr.
they're just
Maller.
big and little cafeteria or something like that.
Yeah, it was
so.
like big half and little caps, I don't know what it's gonna be, they haven't announced.
There's, it's actually a consultant, correct?
It
Yes.
is,
Come in,
yes.
is working with Mrs. Paul, who's our food services coordinator, and she's trying to help bring a different atmosphere, not just to our cafeteria,
Right.
but to all cafeterias.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas was naming the cafeteria.
She said she was at one of her food conferences and there was some sort of little lottery, like enter your name and you'll get a free consultation, and that was
That's
her
awesome.
free, she won it.
Wow, that's
Exactly.
neat.
So the woman came.
Wait, did everybody get a free consultation though?
Doesn't
I put their
matter, it's
name in the
free.
thing. Come on.
Well, maybe, but
It's
we're gonna
fine.
move forward and
Yeah,
move the
I'm okay with it,
cafeteria
I'm just
into
saying.
the next
I'm not buying
generation.
it.
So once
Little
this
step
is
here.
more established, I believe Lori Tall is gonna come to the committee with
Yeah.
with a plan on, because there'll be a little painting involved and, dress things
Nice.
up.
Try.
and make it look.
Sprucing it.
Yeah,
I remember
spruce it
back in the day, there was also did you have the senior cafeteria?
They did talk about that in
Yes.
health advisory,
They
like
made
you
it, I
could
don't know,
not
offices for
even.
adults or something now, off the small caf.
Yeah,
That was a big thing back
I heard that it
I
was
know,
really.
you better not be in there unless you were senior.
Offices for adults.
Yeah.
Seniors,
Not as fun.
Well, that's all I have to talk about, so. All right, Beth, it's your turn.
I just want to say that I was really proud of Birchland. Well, I'm always proud of Birchland Park because it's just such a great school. But they had a whole week of events in honor of Alex Blaze because he was coming back. And the students bought T-shirts and it was a whole superhero theme. They had a movie after school for it. They had a dance. All the proceeds went to the family, to help offset costs. And it was just, I think the kids were they were sincerely happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is just huge kudos to the atmosphere that we have at that school, which is really pretty great. And the other thing is E-Leaf event is happening on Saturday. There is, although it was worth more probably yesterday morning, but there is a Gronk signed football.
Yeah?
So if somebody
Still
wants,
have to-
if you can't make it and you wanna call in big numbers for that football, we will
That's
take
being auctioned
phone
off?
orders. Yeah, it's gonna be auctioned off. And who knows?
I did a pretty good second half.
He did, and he might retire, then it'd be worth something more because he signed it.
And they're not having a lot of auctioned items.
They're not, there's like a total of, there's less than 10 items total. There's a raffle, there's a wheelbarrow of beverages, there's gonna be a money tree, and then there's the football, there's tickets, I feel like there's a ticket to some event.
Website?
Then we have signing up for, it's kind of a first come, first serve, principal for the day at Mountain View and at Maple Shade, custodian of the
For the
day
Ooh.
for Mountain View, because she wanted to do less principal for the day at Birchland, and, big one,
On your tickets.
the first 4 parking spots at the Meadowbrook car line are up for auction.
Oh, jeez.
Wow,
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
that's huge.
That's huge. That's bigger than
That's a
Gronk.
good idea.
Every
So,
day,
there you
going into a
go.
coned off space,
Yep.
right there.
VIP.
At
And
Meadowbrook.
graduation, front seats
Yeah.
for graduation.
Oh, yeah,
So,
graduation.
there's some kind of neat things.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time. All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, we have opportunity for visitors to address the committee, so at this point, I'd ask, no? Okay, moving on. You know I'm always gonna ask, so. All right, moving on to presentations, we have 5.1.1, discussion of the fiscal year 2019 budget needs/requests.
Okay, this year, we did it a little bit differently, so
I like it.
in your packets, you have, it's a little longer because it prints out as 2
Yeah.
pages per request, but it still was a Google form originally, and members of the leadership team could submit their requests and identify needs and so forth through the Google form. In years past, we've used the,
Yeah,
Spreadsheet.
Thank you, yeah, I was looking down, I was gonna say, exported it to a
Right.
spreadsheet, but that was really
That got
challenging to
hard to
read.
read.
Right.
So this hopefully gives you an idea of what at least the top part instructions were. And then on the second page, it gets into the description of the actual request. And in your package, you have approximately 8 requests. That's already been pared down.
I have
from-
9.
You have
Yes,
9?
it would have been nice to have a single list of just the,
Okay.
yeah. We were just
You
gonna
sure you
write it
have
out
9?
now.
I think it's a total of 8.
But I think just a couple people have 2, 'cause-
8.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
8
only 8.
also.
All right. All right, Rich, we'll see about your math.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, we'll go
That
through
old
it
school math.
and make sure that we have all the requests on here. But the point that I was making was that over a few leadership team meetings, we had pared down the list from original requests. And the original requests, I think we totaled just 11. So everyone is, if you look at those instructions up top, is trying to be fiscally responsible and make sure that the requests that we do put in are pushing programs and students forward in their learning. So I'm not going through these in any specific order, but just so that we're all clear on the ones that you have a request for an intensive special needs teacher at the high school. That would complete the programming. We have an intensive special needs program now basically spanning from Maple Shade, and if we do hire a teacher at the high school, which I do think we need, given that there will be students transitioning to the high school next year, and you still will have students at Birchland, you'll have the program going from Maple Shade all the way through the high school.
Makes sense.
Actually, I take that back, Meadowbrook all the way through the high school. But this group of students, at least during my tenure, has been with me since Maple Shade, since I've been watching their transition. And it's impressive. So that's one of the 8. Then another one is coming from the high school, but it sort of broaches a topic that I would say is district-wide. This is for a technology integration specialist. And this is a position that as districts move more and more into technology and using it on a daily basis and want to give students better opportunities of how to use different technology to support their learning, it's helpful. It's actually a licensed Department of Elementary and Secondary Education position to have someone who can help teachers lesson plan, can co-teach with teachers to make sure that we're utilizing the technology we currently have and maybe make recommendations toward technology that we may need to support student learning in the future. So although that was submitted from the high school, it's something that we should be looking at district-wide, especially if we're starting to look at the potential of getting to a program where we may have students, not just in our community action learning course, having a computer that they can use at school and take home, but maybe every student from in a certain grade span taking home a computer in a one-to-one program. So that would be the start of that process. And actually there's a group that's working with Ryan Quimby, group of principals right now, looking at how do we really put together a plan to outline what that may look like for the district. How do we get there financially? What is the professional development that may be needed? And how do we start to budget for that over the next few years? Then you have a request from Mrs. Anir, which is coming from central office and recognizing something that I think all of you know, because we talk about it pretty frequently, that the curriculum renewal line item, although funded and has supported some incredible purchases over the last few years for different departments, $100,000 probably is not enough to support as each department or departments come up for renewal to support all their needs, whether it be textbooks or equipment. If you remember last year, one of the big needs was updating all our science labs with equipment that was more 21st century. So their lab experiences, our student lab experiences, are experiences that actually put them in good stead to apply for colleges. So far that's 3. Okay. The next one is a request that's actually coming from both Maple Shade and Mountain View, and this is taking a look at the instrumental music teacher. We have someone retiring this year. That position currently is a .8 position, and it's shared between two schools. And so they're requesting the opportunity, I guess would be the best way to put it, to move that to a 1.0 position so that it allows for better scheduling between the two schools. It's similar to the vocal music, that's a shared position between the 2, 3 through 5 schools. One after that is a request for standing desks, and this is something that is becoming much more common in our schools, and this would be at Meadowbrook. And actually, we have standing desks in some of our buildings and some of our offices for staff, so it's becoming somewhat of a phenomenon.
Staff?
That comes from Meadowbrook. And then you have a request, again, coming from Maple Shade and Mountain View, to take a look again at our math coach / interventionist. Right now, Maple Shade and Mountain View share that individual, and so it's basically a half day at each building throughout the week. If we were able to fund a coach for each building, the idea would be that the skilled specialist could actually start doing more of the interventions with students who need those interventions. We share an ELA or a literacy coach between the two buildings, but then we also supplement in each building with reading specialists. So often it's our reading specialists who are doing the interventions. We don't have a position, say, of a math specialist, although your math coach / interventionist would be considered that. And then this is something that Dr. Allen has put in the last few years. It's a request for a social emotional special education teacher at the middle level. And this is something that you heard us talk about last year and continue to talk about this year, where as we gain more information just around how students, not just in East Long Meadow, but students across the Commonwealth or across the country, are coming to school and dealing with many different social and emotional challenges that may be happening outside the school, but as they come to school, they bring those challenges into the school and frustration, and schools then are in a position of looking to support students in the best way possible. And first and foremost, you have to make sure a student is feeling safe and secure and ready to learn before you actually can start looking at how do you help and support students academically. So it's becoming more and more a challenge. This year, as you know, within our budget, looking at where we may reorganize some of our funding, we established $60,000 in the contracted services account, which allowed schools to get a percentage of that $60,000 based on enrollment. And so you'll hear some of this in the mid-cycle review. They're doing some great things with that money. It's not an incredible amount of money because $60,000 divided by the 5 schools at certain percentages based on their enrollment does not come to a lot of money, but we are starting to do some things which I think are supporting students better. The hope will be that if we continue to do that, that we can then at the end of next year maybe look at what have we achieved, and do we need to start a social and emotional program within the system similar to the way the intensive needs was built throughout the schools all the way up to the high school.
So would we keep the $60,000 currently for contractual? We'd still need those in addition to this position?
Yeah, one of the goals, and so it's not necessarily a budget request because we're looking to do that within our budget. We're looking to continuously evaluate our budget and say, okay, we know this is a need. Are there other areas of the budget that no longer are such a need that we should be? It's not so much that you would stop funding something, but maybe you don't have to fund it as high with as high an amount that we're funding it currently.
Last year we funded $60,000 for contractual services. Next year, if we were to add this position as a FTE, which
this would be separate.
in addition to
Yeah,
the
so
60,
the
we would still maintain the $60,000.
Actually, we'd like to increase the 60,000 to 100,000.
Okay.
So as we build the budget, we're gonna look to see if we can do that.
Yeah, by
So
doing
the
what you
dis-
just talked about.
Correct. So
But then the additional requests of this position.
So the discussion that happened at the leadership team, I left these requests in because I wanted the school committee to hear what buildings and departments are thinking. But our discussion at the leadership team was that possibly if we are able to successfully build that contract services to 100,000, it would be next year at this time, we see, what have we been able to do? Are we starting to meet the needs of our students around social and emotional challenges in learning? Do we need to then start to build a program, or should we be continuing along the lines that we've taken over the last 2 years? So basically what we were agreeing upon was maybe we table it for a year, because we know that the intensive special needs, that's a program already in the district, and probably is gonna go to sort of what I would recommend is the first priority, because you have those students moving into the high school. So that was a discussion at the leadership team around that, but I didn't want to pull that because it is a challenge that we're
It is a
facing, and it's
question.
one we're planning on.
But more for next year.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
And then the next one is a submission regarding more clerical support in our Student Support Services office. In that office, you have not only special education, you also have health services, and you have our METCO program, and special education transportation is operating out of that office. And so we do tend in these two offices to run leanly, if you will, when compared with other districts. And so this is more or less an outline of some of the things that are becoming more and more challenging as we are providing more and more services. I think that's 8.
Yeah, you're right.
It is,
I wrote down the SEL teacher
Okay.
twice, so.
Okay. With that said, I wanted to, this is the first you're seeing all these requests.
Right.
Allow you to ask questions. Some of the things that we've talked about, and we didn't necessarily prioritize, but we did talk about the fact that the intensive special needs teacher is probably something that should rise to the number one. I don't think there was anybody on the leadership team who disagreed with that. The shared music teacher, increasing that from a .8 to 1, that's not a dollar amount that is incredible, and we saw that as being a plus for 2 elementary schools in terms of scheduling and involving more students. And then if we are moving, and we think that we are, we should hopefully have a plan to present to school committee in the next few months regarding technology and how maybe we get to 1-to-1. Then we should be considering starting to introduce the technology integration specialist. If you were to look at those 3 items, you're looking at about $137,000, $138,000 of new money, for lack of a better term.
I'm sorry, how much?
Well, plus the band though, right?
The band's about 12,000, the music
Yeah.
point,
Yes,
about
it's,
12,000.
we use, if you remember, we use, when a teacher retires, we put in a number as a placeholder, the Masters 8 level.
Yep.
That's all teachers in Massachusetts within their first 5 years need to get their masters. So that gives a starting point anyway to build the budget, and then hopefully we can hire strategically, hire the best person so that it gives you a chance to get someone who has some experience, or the best person may be someone who doesn't have the experience but has the personality, intelligence, and the skill set to fit the best in a given building.
Mrs. Smith, I like your top 3, but I think I'd fold in the curriculum renewal too, because that does the whole system. To me, that makes sense, 25, it's
Sure.
it's 25,000.
I know.
Right?
But if I could just, I think we have to stay somewhat in the abstract for 2 reasons. First, we haven't received any information
No,
from
we
the
have
town.
not seen full
Right.
parameters from the town. What we have had is a discussion at town council where the director of finance was providing the town council members just a look at what it would, the overall budget would look like if you had a 1% increase, a 2% increase, and a 3% increase. And out of that discussion, a couple things that I took away was that the town's in excellent financial health. We are doing well in terms of our free cash, in terms of the amount of money that you would like to keep in free cash, which basically is their emergency fund, if you will. We have our best bond rating, I believe, ever, and so we're in a position which, prior to the town council, I think our appropriations committee did an excellent job of having a goal of working down the long-term debt, so that we not only have a much better bond rating, but also have the ability to bond in the future. And so they had a moratorium on bonding previously in recent years. So that it seems like there's more discussion other than, say, 3-4 years ago when we were all given a 1% parameter. It sounded like we might be looking at possibly a 2%, 2.5 was even mentioned, but those are all preliminary conversations.
Right.
If that were to happen, 2% would be somewhere around $583,000, almost $584,000 for us in our budget, and a 2.5 is around $729,000.
Yeah, the reason I'm mentioning about staying in the abstract is not only that reason, but second, we are negotiating with Unit A, which is the largest
Absolutely.
group.
Yep.
But I mean, this list, when I added it up quickly, it came about 330,136.
I had about 345.
Okay, 345. And I think.
Which is not out of
No, if we got
the
two-
realm
That's
request.
that's over 1% increase, and we still have to deal with contractual obligations.
Correct, no, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
that I thought our leadership team did a very good
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
in
Right.
terms
No,
of
agreed.
asking
Right.
for realistic.
Very creative.
Right.
Some of the things, if I may, just so you can start thinking about these, certainly you don't have to make a decision tonight. Something like the standing desks,
That
that's
was my
something we
comment. Could we
probably
find
could
that?
pull out and between building supply money
Well, you never know. I mean,
and
you
district supply money.
something could happen, you don't know that, though.
You're right.
I mean,
I
But
would
this is,
say-
this is
you-
so far below
Right,
the
you could-
capital
yes,
request
yes,
amount
yeah.
that it should be easily be able to be,
Yeah.
Yeah, but our budget's so
Although that
tight,
was
you never
a
know.
big request
True,
from Ely
but what I was
this
gonna
year.
say is
Yeah.
you're looking at a 6,000 and change
Right.
request. Even if you did it over 2 fiscal years, so you built toward the amount of standing desks that Meadowbrook would like to see in their building, I think you don't necessarily have to build it as, a new
Yeah.
priority budget item.
Right.
It's something that we're gonna work towards, similar to what buildings do, say, with just cafeteria tables. They may not replace all, if they have 20, all 20 at once.
Right.
But they may replace 3 each year with their building-based money. And certainly we could, if need be, if Meadowbrook could not take on some kind of program, we could help out at the district level as well. When we look at supply money, one of the things that we do when we purchase, if we can, we like to group purchase, and we'll purchase for the district for, say, custodial supplies.
Right.
And then that saves the buildings money, plus if we do it through the LPVC or on some of the state contract lists, we're getting the best prices available, and that allows the buildings to save money as well as the district. So that was one. The clerical help for the Student Services Department is something that we will continue to work at with Dr. Welsh. One of the things that we know is going to happen is we're going to be reconfiguring job descriptions in central office. So with that, we may free up some people that are in central office to do other things with the student support services. Then maybe we can target and look at what specifically are some of the more pressing needs that are somewhat cyclical and not consistent through the year. And if that's the case, possibly we could look at contracting with an agency of some sort to get that type of clerical help during those specific timeframes, such as Dr. Welsh reviews circuit breaker and does a lot of auditing. Maybe there's some help there that we could provide that would allow her to get through that project in a timely and efficient manner, and also deal with many other things on a daily basis that go through student support services. So that was another one that possibly we could pull out, and it's not sort of a new initiative, it's something that we continue to work at within.
So then, out of all that, because if we take out the social and emotional, if we take out the student service administrative support, potentially the standing desks, the only one left that we're not really addressing is the math coach. Can you speak to the importance of that? And
Sure. So, basically what the schools are finding is that the math coach has been incredible in supporting our teachers in both how they instruct and how they break down certain student achievement data. They are working with our teachers in not only capacity where they're providing professional development, but they're also working in capacity where they may co-teach or they may take over the class for a period so that the teacher can observe and see, okay, how they might instruct certain things. What we're not able to do quite a lot of is that as you identify students who are struggling where we want to provide more support, the math coach has not been able to actually run the interventions. Where in our literacy program, we have reading specialists who are trained and have the ability to run those interventions and do it well, and we don't have that same kind of support for math. So that's what the principals are asking, to have a math coach / interventionist in each building, where you actually have that math specialist full-time in your building, and so you could do both the professional development, the, actually more than both, the co-teaching and working with students on interventions. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
If there's questions.
Okay.
It does get difficult with building schedules being different to try to share staff. I mean, they've done a great job with it. And we do have some math specialists in other buildings who are able to provide intervention because they're in one building, so they're able to kind of split their time. So I think it's a valid request.
So at the middle school.
Also at Meadowbrook.
Okay, at Meadowbrook as well. At the middle school, you have both our coaches, ELA coach and the math coach. They're actually teaching a course and providing interventions and doing those other pieces that we've talked about.
So in this preliminary discussion, what I'm hearing is the intensive special ed program, curriculum renewal, music point 2, the math coach, and the technology specialist. So 5 items we're looking at.
Yes.
This is my preliminary discussion.
Yeah,
That could change,
I would
but
say, yeah, preliminary,
Yeah.
really build the budget around those 5 additions, and we'll
Okay.
see what that does. It's under 1%, I have it at 230, 239 for those
Yeah.
5 positions, so potentially depending on the town and
Yeah.
our negotiation.
I love the diversity, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's helping students in so many different ways, it really is.
And it's reasonable, and I think,
Right,
their
we always wanna move
necessities,
forward
they're
as a
not-
district, but we do have to understand that it's a public institution and funds are limited, so I think they're all reasonable requests. So I'd be in favor of
You want to start to
start building the budget around
Yeah.
those
Which
5.
which were they again?
Okay, so you wanna make a motion?
No,
No?
well, it's just a discussion, right?
Right,
We
okay.
don't-
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly start the
Maybe I
work.
could
if you
in
wanna-
charge of
I just wanted to
superintendent?
see what it was, yeah.
And you can motion at another.
Have the superintendent start to build a budget with the addition of 5 different items. The first being the intensive special ed program. The second being the music point 2, to make that full-time. The third would be the curriculum renewal for 25,000. The fourth would be the technology specialist. And the fifth would be the math coach at Maple Shade and Mountain View. Math coach and interventionist, I guess.
Well, what about the standing desks? What were your thought on that? Did you want to put that in there?
I think we'll see, Mrs. Smith says if we go into the
Okay.
budget, we might be able to do it in a,
Even
many
if we
different ways
did
you
it,
can be
yeah,
creative.
even if we did it over a period of a few fiscal years, I think we can get at that. It's not, You don't necessarily have to purchase it all in one fell swoop.
Well, how are we gonna do this? In prior years, we built off the existing budget, and then any additional requests were made as a
Oh, right.
supplement,
Well, we haven't gotten any guidelines.
supplementary
Yeah, we don't get any
budget.
marching orders.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten any
It's more
guidelines
difficult
yet.
now, I think,
Yeah.
until after the town council
We don't
meets.
even know
I
what
mean,
percentage.
Right.
we can start to build this budget
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what it might increase us to. And then we'll have an idea when we do get the
When we do get-
parameters,
right.
whether we're close
Let's
or
put
over.
the tables on there.
Yeah,
Because,
that's
Come
what I
on,
mean,
so
just
come
put
on.
it on, because it's such a
Well,
minimal
put this
it's a
amount.
minimal, and it's a good splash of improvement to
Okay.
education right up, to those specific
I like
It's
it.
technology in a
classes.
different way.
Yeah,
Plus,
that's
I
it right
think then
away.
you've hit something at each school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were those just Mount Meadowbrook?
Yes.
They were, okay.
Yeah, Meadowbrook put them in, I think Birchland has purchased a few that they purchased in the summer of last year and
Right.
and have put, each team has a few standing desks that they can utilize as needed.
Yeah, and I know Meadowbrook had started with a couple from grants,
Mm-hmm.
so I think to see if they were
Right, I think it was to
something
see
that
if they
they
were.
wanted.
Certainly, yeah. And that's always been sort of the guidelines of eLeaf, that if you make a grant request and you receive it, and it's something that it has, does prove to be beneficial for students and the school, that we try to pick it up within the budget.
So, Mrs. Smith, that takes care of 6 of the 8 items. The other 2 items, you say that you are in discussions or having discussions about the Birchland Park request was SEL?
Now, basically, the social and emotional, what we discussed with the leadership team, no one is denying that there are challenges that we're trying to address. What we're recognizing is that we're beginning to address those challenges with what we did this year in terms of moving the 60,000.
No, I guess what I meant is, there is a movement there to look at our budget and to see if we can increase that line
Yes,
item.
absolutely.
And then-
So that's not necessarily a new initiative.
Right.
It's how do we, within our own budget now, increase a line item from other funding sources within the budget?
And Dr. Welch, you're in discussions with her about a
We are in
request for administrative help?
Right.
Okay. So we're addressing all 8 then?
Yeah.
Well,
One way or
we are,
another?
yeah.
Okay.
I can't tell you that next year you won't see the same request for a social and emotional teacher,
I
but
understand.
we'll have
Right.
much more data to discuss
What you
what are the
need.
true needs.
I think that's an important, the reason I'm emphasizing this because if you remember at town council last year, that was a big item.
Right.
That was discussed more than
Yes.
anything else other than the
Yeah.
curriculum renewal.
So was that a motion, or that you
I
were
just
making
charged
a
it, so
statement?
next, come
Yeah.
back February 26th with the list.
Yeah, because you want to go back to the leadership team,
And let
let them
them know,
know, and maybe they'll think differently, maybe they won't.
I like
So
it.
we'll look forward, yeah,
Good
I like
work,
it too,
good
look forward
work.
to the update on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was just the first thing.
Yeah.
All right.
We're flying.
It's quicker now, all right, moving down, we have 5.2.1, the Maple Shade sign-on bonus check from the Grid and Barrett.
Yes. So in your packet, you'll see that Michael Fredette, principal at Maple Shade, is requesting you approve a $500 bonus sign-on check from Grin and Barrett.
We already
So
approved one,
this
didn't
is,
we?
yeah, well, the thing
That's
is
for
with Grin
another
and Barrett, I
school.
want to let everyone know that all 5 of our schools do use Grin and Barrett. And this is to get a 3-year sign-on bonus. They give $500. They're very competitive. All the schools are very happy with them. And they also get a 20%. I know that question was asked in the past, last meeting, I believe. There's a 20% commission that comes back to the schools from all the net sales. So, just to let you know.
Plus the 500,
That's, well, the 500 is an initial 3-year
Yep.
sign-on.
and then 20% of
20%
total
of net
sales come back to
sales,
the.
right.
How
That's
much
like-
is that? Any idea?
Well,
Whatever some of the
Depends on
checks
whatever,
are.
each school is
Right.
different.
I just wanna get an idea how much.
Well, I can get that information.
I don't
for you
mean to
next week.
overanalyze it.
Well, what
I'm
was
just
the
trying to
check
decide if I should go
last,
in
last
the
month we had?
1,500,
That's what Maple
Kathy
Shade.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, they're probably over, some of them, I think. have
Hey, how
been
much was
through
it?
Was what?
Maybe
Maple,
1,500,
Mountain
20%?
View?
Yeah,
Go back to
Mountain
your-
View, Mountain View.
yeah. It's good.
And it does secure a 3-year contract with minimum increase from year to year, like less than 3%, so.
All right. And can I have a motion for that, please?
Move to accept the Maple Shade bonus check from Grin and Barrett for $500.
Okay, motion made,
I'll second.
and second, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
No,
That deposited.
no, and then all those opposed, please say nay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I jumped in too soon.
I know, I'm like, ooh. So hearing none, all, that carries forward 4-0. I keep trying to tell myself it's 4 tonight because I don't have Bill here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we have 5.2.2, the quarterly financial report.
Yeah, so in your package, you'll see the FY18 second quarter financial report. So this is as of December 31st, 2017. It's a spreadsheet that's designed as a financial update for the second quarter of the FY18 school budget. Now, if you'd go to page 4, I always put information here, which is just information for you guys about the different accounts there. If you go to page 4, you'll see our operating budget. The top section is the salaries. The bottom section is the expenses. Again, at the bottom, I'm just going to remind everyone, our current budget is $29,195,201. And we currently, after the expenses and encumbrances, have $1,158,099 remaining. And again, that's as of December 31st.
That means that we've encumbered
We've
everything.
encumbered, there's still
spent it yet.
expenses, yes, that's just remaining. Not all salaries are encumbered, most are right at the beginning of the year, but not all of them. You'll see things at the first top there, custodians. We've had a couple of leave of absence, so you see a balance remaining in that line there. What I anticipate is going to happen is you're going to end up seeing custodial overtime going up because that balance is remaining there, but people are working in that place.
The travel expenses are in the,
Yeah, so you know
Right.
what that is due to? That's the athletic team travel.
Oh.
We had to outsource that, and it went through the operating, and I need to rectify that to,
Gotcha.
these to go through the athletic revolving account.
that makes sense.
Do you have any questions on that
And
section?
I do quote you here, you're saying, at this point in time, I do not see any areas of concern. So
That's
confidence
correct.
level is high?
That's correct, we're right on target to where we should be.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
One area that we are watching is circuit breaker, correct?
Yeah, but that's
And
not, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our circuit breaker account is doing well.
Yeah.
It's more at the state level
Yeah,
because
we don't know what it
they may not fund it at 75%, they may fund it at 65%.
65,
Right.
So
so
it'd be
that,
more of the money that we're going to receive once we put in the application. We had been receiving somewhere above 70% reimbursement on that. We may only get 65.
Okay.
so you're good on that section? Okay. Page 5, you have your grants and your revolving accounts. At the top of the grants, you'll see that I wrote the grant amount. The grants come to closure at the end of each fiscal year. Typically, we can have a multi-year grant. Sometimes Title I rolls into the next year, but basically most grants, there's a start and an end. So you'll see here the grant amount and where we've expended, encumbered, and what the available balances are. The Essential School Health Services Grant under the state grants there, I just want to bring to your attention that next year, FY19, is the final year of this grant.
Oh,
For which one?
Essential Health Services.
that pays for,
Really?
pays for what?
Half of a
Personnel.
nurse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're gonna have
That's
to
funny
add
because,
that.
Exactly, that would be
Budget.
FY20, not in
Should've mentioned that.
FY19. We've got it for next year. I just
No,
like to kind
I
of give you a heads
think
up on
they're still outlining the changes from the Department of Public Health.
for,
No, that wasn't brought up in
It
our
wasn't
health
brought up in our
advisory
advisory.
meeting. I'm surprised because I think that's how part of the
Health
reason why we
advisory.
have those meetings
Oh.
is because of that grant.
might.
I
Yeah.
wonder if there will be a different grant that may
Yeah.
come
There
to
could be,
pass.
Gordon, but there's no
Yeah.
definite answer to that in my conversations with Kelly.
Now, are there things that the state requires us to do, like they want to have BMI checks, or they want this or that, the state requires us to do it? Is that what this is supposed to help offset, or?
I
It's
think it
just an
helps, I think
extra-
it helps with like
The,
CPR certifications and.
Okay.
Well, it's a
Alright.
combination. The grant, the state does require some of these screenings that you're talking about. The grant was there to help offset some of those costs, especially if you have professional development involved or training or some type of startup, such as the SBIRT screenings that we talked over the last couple of years. We're doing those. We had applied for a preliminary grant to get the professional development that we needed and to set up the program that we thought would make the most sense for the East Long Meadow Public Schools. If this grant that all schools have the opportunity to receive does not outline how they're going to pay for expert services. There was a question at the beginning of the year whether schools needed to go through with it or not. Excuse me, we're not in that position because we had received a preliminary grant, excuse me. But you are correct, that's what the grant was originally there for.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions on grants section? No. So the bottom section are the revolving accounts, and these are the accounts that supplement our operating budget. They continue from year to year. So you're going to see at the end of FY17, we carried forward those balances, and then you'll see the receipts, the expenses, and then what the current balance is right now. The athletic revolving, you'll notice we carried forward $29,218. I just want to bring to your attention that in June, well, at the end of last year, we started online payments where we hadn't before with athletics. So some of the revenue that was carried forward in June was actually prepayments for the next year.
Yeah.
Similar as happens with the food service account. Just wanted to bring that to your attention, because people are,
The school lunch account.
Exactly.
I was
School
gonna
lunch,
ask
the
you
same thing
because
happens.
our FY 18 expenses are higher than our receipts. And I know
Because the
historically-
money's carried forward is a good chunk of
The
it.
receipts are higher than the
Exactly.
expenses. That balance is getting a little high, no?
Well,
or-
she does have the expenses ready to.
She had a bunch of the things that she was gonna
She
purchase.
also has an administrative review this week where the state comes in and,
Audit.
yeah,
Audit,
it's a big
program.
audit.
Mm.
And she, of course, she's always supposed to have 6 to 12 weeks of operational costs
Right.
in that line item. The last thing I want to, I guess, remind you is the kindergarten tuition revolving account at the very bottom. You're going to see there's zero balance because that's eaten up. That was 2 teachers and 3 paras, so those will be going back into the operating budget for FY19. That's part of the whole, budget process that we're going to talk about.
That whole kindergarten tuition revolving account and the building, that was just brilliant.
It was.
It really
It really did
was.
set it up
It
nicely.
really did, because we know nobody else was gonna help us out with it, so it was beautiful.
There is one item here, if you notice at the bottom, I always put this in because Terry had told me about it and I carry it forward. Includes field and track donation balance of $6,550. That's up in the gift accounts. So it's really under the high school gift account. I don't know how much information you all know about that, and if it should be
It happened
transferred to.
probably 5-6 years ago when the project was finishing up, but we had not been able to act on a number of alternates. And so
Okay.
booster groups got involved, there were fundraisers such as, it was, I think, football and lacrosse boosters that funded the EL at the center of the field.
Okay.
So I think that money came through various groups and was designated to go back to the stadium project.
Well, and that's why I wondered if the committee should be voting to have me move the money from the gift account to transfer it to the appropriate athletic account. Or not, we don't have to do that right now. But I did want to bring that up.
So it's to be used only on track and
On
field
track and field.
equipment?
That's my.
No, not equipment necessarily, it's on the track
On the track
and
and field
field
itself.
project. Right.
But you said,
These were monies that were raised by various groups who wanted to help support.
did we already spend it though on the emblem in the middle or no?
No, the boosters, there
It was
was separate, yeah, there was a separate, that specifically went to that.
Yeah, we should move this so we can
Yeah.
spend it.
Oh, I feel like it's just been sitting there and we haven't talked about it, I thought it was
So if we put it in the
time.
athletic stadium account,
I was just gonna say,
then
isn't there
we
an account for that?
can, how will we allocate, how will we spend that money?
Well, it'll be earmarked and we'll probably.
You would have to spend it towards maintenance of the track
The
and the
track
field.
itself.
So, such as, we use the athletic stadium rental account to make repairs to, say, that interior fence, or
Okay.
to purchase the carpets that go across the track, so as students with cleats don't walk
Right.
directly on the track.
So we could just have that earmarked for future use for those kind of things and not use the revolving account.
And so to transfer it from the high school gift account to the athletic
And
stadium
it's
rental.
$65.50?
Yes, $6,550.
So yeah, I'm gonna move that we transfer funds from the high school gift account totaling $6,550 to the athletic revolving account?
Athletic stadium rental?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
athletic stadium rental.
Well, because that one's for the stadium, I mean,
Right.
we, you
Yeah.
know,
Then
they
it won't
have.
need to be earmarked, it's already there. You're only gonna use it on the
You
stadium.
can only use
Correct.
that on the
So
state.
it seems more appropriate to
That's
do
my
it.
motion.
Okay, motion's been made
Second?
and
Thank
seconded.
you.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 4-0.
What about the EV grants part of that? Yeah.
Yeah, she may have written that there because
Oh.
it didn't start, I crossed it off the bottom of mine, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
carried that
Okay.
forward. But when we do get those ELEAF funds in, you'll be seeing that back in there, and I'll put it back in.
Okay.
And, you know, as always, it's imperative to remember that the balances provided are a snapshot in time and are changing constantly.
Got it.
Yep.
Cool, looks good, thank you.
Yes,
You're
thank you very
welcome,
much.
thank you.
We just need a motion to accept that.
Yeah, move to accept the quarterly financial report as presented.
Okay, motion's made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Just to thank you very much for doing all that.
Thank you.
So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 4-0. Okay, moving down, we have 5.3.1, so we're moving on to Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Report. We have the overview of the February 7th professional development events.
I just wanted to give you a brief update. We are holding our second full district-wide PD, which will be, we'll start off with a 2-hour keynote speaker, who's Lisa Deeker. She's well-known in the area around inclusive practices and special education. So she will be kicking our day off. We have put out some invitations to districts around the area and told them that they could participate like we did in November. And we have approximately about 20 or so staff from other districts who will be coming from. We have Hampshire Regional is sending some people, Ludlow sending a slew of people. Just a couple of different emails from Eva Tillotson over there in Ludlow. Long Meadow is sending a few staff members. And then we are hosting approximately three staff members, 3 to 5, I'll have to go back and look, but from Pope Francis High School. They reached out regarding Title I, Title IIA supports, and through conversations with them, it's a requirement to provide services to private entities, students that are our students who go to private schools if they're within our boundaries. They're not in our boundary, but we got to talking and said, they would be welcome to join us for professional development when possible. So they reached out and they do want to send a few people to this, so we're going to invite them in as well. So that's kind of a nice outreach. So Lisa Deeker is talking about successful inclusive classrooms, practices in the classrooms that both lead to success socially and academically. So she's really well known, and I think that is kind of told by the 25 or so people who are coming in just to kind of join us for our kickoff. We have 26 sessions throughout the day that are going to be provided by our own staff.
Fantastic.
And I gave you just the brief overview of the titles of the sessions that are being run. We have everything from technology to some social emotional things there you can see, innovation, really looking at math and modeling with math, social emotional learning and how to incorporate that in writing. There's a really good variety here, I believe, that our staff was interested in providing to their colleagues in the district. So pretty excited to see how this day goes, and we're hoping for another successful run. Looking to repeat the success.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that the snow or
Yeah.
whatever happens to be coming down is after 3 p.m. or at least 2:30.
No, this is fantastic, it really
Yeah,
is.
it's a lot. We'll be
Wow,
excited to
fantastic.
hear any follow-up.
Times-
with
times
how-
you
Yeah, I'll
speaker,
share the
keynote speaker?
evaluations.
I'm gonna
8
try to make that.
8 a.m.
That's in the auditorium.
Yes.
That's right. And if you read through that quick bio,
Yeah, she's
there's the
amazing.
social emotional piece.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the things
Exactly
that
it.
we're starting to train and provide supports to our staff on, so that hopefully we're creating environments that are more supportive to all our students.
Right.
And she may have a guest speaker with her that helps her present, but
Nice.
I'll kind of leave that.
Oh.
You'll have to come and join and see what that's about, but
As
she's
Krista would say, you're leaving us on a cliffhanger.
leaving you on the edge there.
Yeah. Great, thank you for that. Okay, so on to old business. We have 6.1, update and discussion on capital projects for fiscal year 2019. And I'd like to at least start with a little bit of information on this one, because I think we were kind of the ones who brought this back up for discussion. As we had looked over the capital projects, the high school roof is really what we wanted to think about this evening as we look at the rest of the projects that we have on here. Am I correct? This is really what we wanted to just bring up for discussion again, because we did have it on there. Is this prioritized, this list?
This is prioritized and actually has been submitted to the town manager and the town finance director. We had a meeting, Mrs. Blair and I had a meeting with the town manager, town finance director, Mr. Fenny, DPW superintendent, and Mr. Dunn, facilities manager, and went through, this is your prioritized
Right.
list that you had voted on, and we went through each of these projects and tried to provide the history, the context, and it's always helpful to have both Mr. Fenny and Mr. Dunn there to provide some of the maintenance that's gone on over the years and their perspective in terms of urgency on different things. The specific to the high school roof this is a section of roof that's over the freshman and sophomore wing that has a different membrane than the rest of the roof around the high school. And so that was the one area that both gentlemen from the DPW felt that that's a portion of roof we may want to look at if we're not doing the whole roof over, because the whole roof is approximately $6 million to replace, and it's part of our submission to the Mass School Building Authority for a core project. And a core project is a new building or a comprehensive renovation. So in talking with the Mass School Building Authority, doing something of this nature does not necessarily hurt your eligibility, but one of the things, and I think that's where you were going, Mrs. Mayu, that we were able to, as we toured the roof today, it's chilly, but it was very sunny, it was a nice day, for those who may not have been out there with us. We had a gentleman, Dave O'Brien from Garland Associates, who had done, the Garland Associates had done a study or analysis of all municipal roofs back in January of 2015. And actually, that study I use as part of our statement of interest to show the Mass School Building Authority where our roof, or roofs in this case, are in terms of their life expectancy and their condition.
All right, so today we had the opportunity to go up on the roof and inspect it, and, I mean, you guys were with me, and it was soft.
It was, yeah, it was.
It was soft, it was a little,
I think that's the nature of it.
but I think it's
Yeah.
just the nature of it. I didn't feel unsafe, like I was going to fall through, and I
No.
think that's what you have to also, what we learned was then we came inside and we went into one of the classrooms, and that's underneath, that's under that wing, and we removed the ceiling tile.
The drop ceiling.
The drop ceiling, and had gone up, just looked up through, we got on a ladder and looked through to look at the underside of the roofing deck. And it looked good. Like, I don't feel like structurally there's any concern. We didn't see any rust, anything breaking there. I think what you're seeing is the membrane on top is getting loose, and I don't know if you guys want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I know, I think just as we spoke about strategically with the MSBA and applying again next year, it might be advantageous for the town to not necessarily spend over $200,000 for the roof. It sounded
small section
to
of
me, right, just a section of the roof that potentially we'd be able to patch it a little longer. The water stains are just that, they're just stains on the ceiling tiles, which we can swap out on a regular basis. And I think the leaky roof will add more reason for MSBA to consider us to the core project, at which point we could bring it to the town for a vote. So I'd personally be in favor of, as we've done before, is try to not spend money on the building when we're trying to go for the core program, and remove the roof project at least from this year's capital projects, in hopes that we'd be invited into the MSBA process so the town could decide whether or not they'd want to fund a new school.
One thing I think that is important is that as we were looking at the metal decking, if that's the proper term, Mr. O'Brien said that it's corrugated galvanized steel, which he thought was excellent.
Right.
Just as Mrs. Mayer said, no rust, no damage anywhere that he could see, that it was in excellent condition. So there's no structural weakness there. What it is that membrane up top is in worse repair than the membrane that spans most of the other sections of the roof of the high school. But probably Ally could attest to with different rainstorms. Have you seen leaks in some of these days? 2 weeks ago when we had that intense rain, I did walk the building specifically in that area, and I didn't see any leaks in that area. But I don't know if you've seen.
There's usually there's usually just like a barrel in the middle to like
In
collect
that
it, but I don't
area
think
or
that it's
other
like.
areas?
In the hall, on the end of that hallway.
Yeah,
You're not really
they're
down
in like
there,
a
but-
bunch of hallways, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's
All over
just,
the
I think it's
building.
just like a thing that happens. I don't think it's really like serious.
Well, that's part of the other discussion, and you bring up a good point, that it's a
Right.
thing, it's in other hallways, and so part of our discussion today was to have a further
thermal,
analysis
right.
done.
Right.
Is it infrared? Is that what it?
Yeah, it's a thermal imaging.
Thermal
Right, thermal
imaging.
That he was recommending, which can tell you what area of your insulation under the membrane has been saturated with water.
Right.
And that will give you a better idea of what areas of your roof are in the most urgent need.
And now, and information like that would be useful in determining where we should be spending our money going forward, so that if potentially next year we decide that, yes, we want to start fixing this building, because we're not being accepted into the process, then we'd have some more of a focus on where to spend that,
Excuse me.
with that sort of information, so.
Does it make sense to maybe move it down in your prioritization list?
That's what I was
and
just gonna ask.
Not necessarily remove it
Right.
from the list?
Right.
Well, I'm a little concerned that you've already given this over to the town council side. So,
I think it's helpful towards the discussion,
Yeah, I think.
for them.
Right.
I
Give it
think-
to the town manager.
And we haven't
Town
gotten
manager
any,
and town finance director.
right.
and we have
But
no
they're using it
parameters.
as their, from that meeting, they're taking that with all the other projects from the town to
Right.
put together their recommendation to town council.
Which they're still working on, I
Right.
believe,
Yeah,
right? So
they are.
they're
I mean, we
still,
haven't gotten much information from town council or
Regarding-
even, right, regarding
Yes.
anything, or even finance.
So I like the idea of moving it to the bottom, and I think what that'll do will provoke some discussion, perhaps with us and the town council. I know everybody here is, but I've always been in favor of maintaining this building. It's a responsible
Right.
thing to do. However, it's not working for us in terms of getting at our end goal, which is to be accepted in the process so the town can vote. So I'd be having that discussion with the council. If the council's adamant about spending the money on the maintenance, then we can have that discussion. But I think by submitting it and now moving it, we're certainly pointing out that it's highly, it's a high priority, but
Right.
we're also have some strategy in terms of how we're spending money.
It
And
also
I will
doesn't
say, we,
appear that we're not harming the school with what's happening
Right.
right now. Because they're maintaining, they're keeping up, they're
Yeah.
not, you know,
right,
we're not harming it. If we were
Yeah.
harming it, that would be a different thing.
And it didn't
I
look
don't
bad
feel that
today,
way.
to that point that it's not,
Yeah.
it really, I expected worse when we looked up into that.
so did I, and I was really, I mean, these last two rainstorm that we've had, I've gone and said, anything in the hallway, it's like, no, we've had no issues in the hallway.
Not in that hall.
In that hallway, in the
Yeah.
freshman wing, yeah.
So,
And I
the
think
roof is-
also, sorry to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
but we got new information from when we made this list, because we really wanted to be comfortable with our decisions, and, you know, by the time we got this meeting scheduled, it unfortunately was after the prioritized list, so I have no problem moving it and sending it back in, saying we've opened it up for discussion again, because, you know, that's a lot of money to spend on one little project for
Yep.
something that may not help us with the larger project of putting the project through the MSBA.
I just want to
So sorry.
make, no, 2 points. One, as we're discussing this, obviously, the entire roof, it needs to be
Right.
replaced. And so that's something that we're working toward with the core project. So there are leaks in different areas of the building. That happens to be the membrane that seems to be the one that is most damaged according to Mr. O'Brien and starting to pull away from the side. So those are things that we knew. We were happy to see that the galvanized decking is in great shape, and so there's no structural weakness. The other point I wanted to just make sure people are aware is that we're maintaining the building.
Right.
When you say that we're not going to invest necessarily into replacing the membrane of this roof, it doesn't mean that maintenance stops.
Right.
You know, our custodians work on the inside of the building, and they're making sure that, you know, if ceiling tiles need to be replaced or there is an issue with lighting or something like that, they take care of it, and what they can't take care of, we then do work orders through DPW. And so as you saw on that roof, DPW has done patches over time in any number of areas. And I think their concern is more that they're not sure if they can patch anymore. And so that's probably where their concern comes from. But I don't want anybody to feel that maintenance is not ongoing of the building.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I agree with that,
Yeah.
and yes,
Yeah.
you're right, yep, thank you.
So do we want to have a motion then to,
Yeah,
did you want to add it?
no, I was saying, I think we should move it
Yeah,
down.
I was going to say,
So I'll move that we move number 7, high school roof replacement freshman wing, to the bottom of our capital request list to be sent to the town administrator, or the, town manager.
Second.
okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that?
So everything would just slide up one.
Yeah, slide up one.
So that goes to 14, everything else moves up.
And certainly can accompany that with a reason why. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I'm gonna go through the fact that we had Garland and Associates with us, that we had our DPW with us.
And that we're still in search of answers with the,
MSBA. Yep.
and further researching the roof.
Oh, yes,
The
that we're
imaging.
gonna do the imaging,
Okay,
yes.
awesome.
All right. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 4-0. Okay, moving down onto new business, we have 7.1, the East Long Meadow School Committee meeting calendar for 2018 and 19. Goodness, I'm moving so quickly.
So those are your potential dates for meetings next year, starting with the August 6th meeting. I think last year, or this current year we're in, Kathy, am I correct that we moved the August 6th and just kept the one August 20th meeting? So that's a possibility. That tended to be a high vacation week, August 6th.
Now, should we have one in here? I know we generally don't do July, but do we
I
need
know,
one?
you might need one.
You have to
I was
reorganize.
just gonna ask that one if that's
Reorganize.
something you add, because you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
reorganize.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to reorganize.
Or
Or do
do
you
you
want
before
to
Ju-
leave
did
that
you have
as
to organize
not a regular
before-
scheduled one, but one
We
that
can.
just,
When is
But I
that?
think you should do it
When's the
as,
election?
isn't it usually,
Election's in June, but you can't reorganize until, according to the charter, until after July 1st.
July.
oh, I thought it had to
right,
be
that's
before
what
July
I-
1st, okay.
What's July 1st?
Well, I was just gonna say, what are the
New
dates?
fiscal year. Oh, you're talking about the date.
Day of the week, yeah.
Maybe like the 9th or something.
First is
let's
Sunday.
see.
He's asking what date.
Yeah, so Monday the 2nd.
So July 2nd, we should set a meeting.
Or stick with, oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Because I think that's something you just have to have going forward.
Right,
You're
you have
gonna
to
have
have
to-
a reorganization.
Yeah,
Oh,
And
reorganization,
gosh,
yeah.
even
and
better way
especially
to
this
go.
year,
I'm sorry, what, Beth?
That's like,
the chair's leaving.
Yeah.
it's too late, what's done is done. That's a bad week for anybody wanna be
I
coming to a
know,
meeting.
anyone.
So,
Mm.
Yeah, but then you always have your July 4th parade, so.
Yeah, everybody's in town, this is the
They're
place
all
to
in town.
be.
right.
This is East Long Meadow, come on. The center of the universe on the 4th of July.
I know it is.
That's all for her Cape time.
July 9th?
So,
try to
I guess,
skip.
no,
No,
I
we
think they
do
were gonna
July
do July 2nd,
It's the
that
banana-
Monday,
We're gonna have to, 'cause
I won't be here.
We're not gonna have a chair, she's leaving, she'll be
Right.
done.
right,
Not that it matters, it's not like there's gonna be an emergency.
right, there's no meeting.
I won't
You
be
wanna
here.
push it off when you
Unless
get
we
back?
just
No, but I'm
wanna-
back, so I'm back the 9th.
Unless we wanna make it something that's, like, when it happens, we all know what our schedules are at that time, we try our best to accommodate. It has to be after July 1st though, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
July 1st. It doesn't have to be, say, July 2nd or July 9th. you can have your existing chair and vice chair
Well, we won't.
carry you through, I know, but I just meant in general, through the summer.
Mrs. Mayton's leaving us, if in case nobody was aware of that.
We would have our vice chair.
We
But
would
you
have
have
a vice
right,
chair,
you-
potentially.
Right.
Unless something,
Oh, you're leaving too?
unless something happens, who knows?
So I guess this was your public
Jumping
announcement.
ship. Well, yeah, I've been,
This-
yeah, I guess
yeah.
it is my
You've been
public
outed?
announcement. Yeah, I've
Oh,
been
sorry.
outed, thank you.
Just moving.
Traitor.
Wow.
Maine of all places.
So do we want to set July 9th
Wonderful
then?
that is, though, isn't
I'd
it?
appreciate July
New
9th.
calendar?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we doing the second?
July
The
9th.
9th.
Oh, July 9th.
So then just have the
That
motion
allows
made.
Okay.
Mr. Chair over here.
Well, you just hope that
And
Bill
allows you
can
to
make
get
that
to the
date now.
Well,
Yeah, go to the
you
Cape and
know
then come
what?
back in March and then go back to the
I
Cape.
very well not be around, but it's gonna be okay, we'll make sure
Be
Rich is
all by
here.
myself, March.
It's good, because I might not the other day too, so we'll just,
All right, so I guess what we can do is have a motion that just adds that
Yeah,
date
I
to the
move that we
calendar.
accept the 2018, 2019 school committee meeting dates as presented, plus a day, a meeting on July 9th.
that's very important that that meeting is
Just for
strictly to reorganize,
Well,
not even to redo our
I wouldn't
jobs
say
other
that,
than
though.
chair and vice chair. I don't know,
You
though.
never know what comes up. If we're coming, we might as
If
well do
something's
some
in a
business
timely
though,
manner.
yeah. I
Yeah,
wouldn't put it like a
Yeah.
restriction on it.
well, I don't know, I think that,
Leave that up to the chair,
yeah, all right, we'll leave it up to the chair.
yeah, before she leaves.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's made and seconded, and any further discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay, and that carries forward 4-0. Moving down, we have 7.2, the MSBA Statement of Interest and Vote.
Okay, in your packets, we have the very specific vote language to allow the superintendent to submit a statement of interest into the accelerated repair program for the Mass School Building Authority for Meadowbrook's roof.
I read the last one, so I have experience.
Yeah, I was just, well, it's, I was
You're the
gonna say,
resident
didn't we
expert,
do this
come
already,
on.
but I forgot this
You
is
ready?
now.
Rock and roll.
Go ahead.
Having convened an open meeting on Monday, February 5th, 2018, prior to the closing date, the East Long Meadow School Committee of the Town of East Long Meadow, in accordance with this charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest form for the accelerated repair program dated on or before February 16th, 2018, for the Meadowbrook Elementary School located at 607 Parker Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in the school facility. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the East Long Meadow Public School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Wow. Excellent work on that.
Experience, you know.
All right, so the motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And that carries forward 4-0.
Point of order. I'm not gonna be here July 9th.
Oh,
Can we change that?
Yes, you may
Sorry.
change
no
it.
problem.
I'm never here July 9th, that's fine. Can we do like the 11th or 12th?
Yeah, I'm good.
So you guys
Beth?
confirm that?
Sure,
11 or 12? Or you don't know?
I don't know. So I will do my best.
Wednesdays
you
and
just-
11, 12? You wanna just wait and schedule
I
it?
was gonna say, why don't you just leave that date and
You're in a
then,
conference.
You know,
room.
I've got such a conflicted summer going on, let's just
Conference
pick
room?
something and I will
Yeah,
do my
I
best
thought
to
it
be
was the
there.
16th, 17th, isn't it?
It's in the calendar, it's the 10th through the 13th.
You wanna wait until we get close? We'll just wait. Let's-
Yeah, that's what you
yeah,
get
I
close.
think we have something on there and then just make
Yep.
your best to come up with something
Yep, let's do
different.
that. Good.
Okay.
Because then we can just move on. Even though we don't have our LCAP volunteer, we can say thank you to Mr. Mackey tonight, thank you. And then also want to thank our student rep, Ally Stevens. Hope you have a good night, and with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
And I'll
All right,
second.
Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, nay.
Ask you something.
Carries forward 4-0, and thank you and have a good night.